Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another LogiSYM webinar. My name is Joe Lombardo, and I'm the editor of the LogiSYM magazine. Joining me also today, my co-host is Mr. Bob Gill. He's the General Manager for Southeast Asia for the ARC Advisory Group. Our webinar today is entitled Building a Resilient Supply Chain, Taking the Guesswork Out of Inventory to Start Winning. And we are very pleased to introduce our guest today from Boomi, and that is Sylvia Davis, the Global Product Manager for Boomi, based out of the US in Texas, and Amit Damne, who is the Senior Systems Engineer for Boomi, based here in Asia in Singapore. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our webinar.
Good morning, everybody.
So let me start off by introducing our guests. So Sylvia, if I can start off with you, if you could share with us a little bit about your background, experience, and some of your most notable achievements, but also we could take a minute to share with us a brief introduction about Boomi and who Boomi is.
Absolutely, Joe. Actually, as you can see, I look very young, but you know, I have been in this industry in high tech and IT technology. I mean, working with companies in several like line of businesses for more than 25 years. It's hard to say that, but time flies, right? So I have the opportunity in this career to work with various types of businesses, and I work for small and large corporations in many industries. And of course, I had to learn a lot about, you know, I would say from, you know, application development and process definition, and together also with operations and portfolio management. And then I work for companies like IBM in Brazil, and I work also for Hewlett Packard Software. Then we have a very large presence in APJ with all the software that we have. So I was hired by a company in US, and then they brought me up here, which was an amazing experience, right? And then I did consulting to several companies for more than 100 types of different businesses, including manufacturing, retail, healthcare, finance, and also, of course, supply chain in managing also ERP systems and applications. So I also hold a couple of certifications, like I'm Safe, Scale, Agile, SPC. That's a lot about process lean, I would say manufacturing as well. And then also I'm certified on ITIL, like the top highest level, and also DevOps. So I always keep myself like acting and learning, because it's important to also share this knowledge with everyone. And then about Boomi, I work at Boomi for more than a year now, and I love this company. You know, it's part of the Dell technology. And then the beautiful about Boomi is that we enable companies to basically bring out their innovation, and also not only that, helping customers to really make their, I would say, digital ambition reality. And how we do that? Boomi offers a platform for integration, bringing data together, orchestrating data, and on top of that, is optimizing value streams. So
Excellent.
That's about Boomi.
Thank you, Sylvia, and I think we have a chance to go through in a little bit more detail of what you've been explaining to us. Let me turn to Amit. Amit, maybe you can give a brief introduction about yourself and some of your achievements as well. And you're based here in Singapore, I know.
Hello, I'm Amit. I'm Senior Solution Consultant with Dell Boomi, working here for almost last 3 years. I started my career with one of the largest pin manufacturers in the world. And believe it or not, my first project was being part of implementation team for IT supply chain planner, demand planner, and rhythm scheduler planner. Now IT is part of GDS software. Back then, my main job was integrating all these systems with core ERP running on SAP. The planners did a wonderful job. I still remember how factory planner would ensure white paint production is scheduled before pink, so we don't have to wash the machines, or how demand planner would ensure production based on season or region. For example, Jaipur in India is called Pink City. So we ensured more pink paint is produced in closest factory near to Jaipur. All these beautiful stuff, right? And we did a lot of things around inventory managing also. But to successfully run all these engines, the data movement at right time with accuracy was very critical.
Right.
Back then we used Python, cyber store procedures to integrate these systems, and it was not easy, and it led to a lot of errors and wrong schedules, manual interventions. And I so wish we would have looked into Boomi back then. Our lives would have been much more simpler. The Boomi platform, as Sylvia mentioned, right, helps solving this problem of integration and helps improve workflow for business critical process. And ever since, I've been into integration business.
Thank you, Amit. That's excellent. And it's 2020 vision is always good in hindsight. If we only had what we knew, if we only knew what we don't know. But anyway, our topic today is building a resilient supply chain. So let me start off by asking Sylvia, what is your definition of sustainable supply chain? Because this is the first point people are most concerned with.
No, it's interesting because supply chain is very like inside of the business. And usually I say like it's the heart of the business, right? And then sustainability. In my point of view, sustainability for supply chain is continuously delivering goods and services and then in a way that is very effective in time and also helps maximize the financial aspects of the company. Because again, supply chain is the heart, and then supply chain also is responsible for like, and sustaining is meaning continuous delivering and continuous maximizing the investments of the company.
Right.
I would
Excellent.
say that's sustainability.
Yeah, okay, it sounds very reasonable. So, Amit, let me ask you, how would you describe resilience then? Because here we're talking about planning, we're talking about looking at optimization. So, but what is resilience in your view when it comes to supply chain?
Okay, so building resilience against supply chain disruption is very important. A resilient supply chain is impacted, but it is able to come back to where it was.
Right.
This may often be case after disruption due to like, natural disasters, pandemics, one when we are right now, or after losing the single source supplier, right?
Right.
So their supply chain disruption oriented firms require ability to reconfigure resources or have risk management resource infrastructure.
Right.
There are various strategies to combat these disruptive events. This could be like you have stockpile inventory, or you could develop backup suppliers, or you can manage product demand.
Sure.
But these strategies are very high investment, and sometimes it's not even possible, right?
Right.
But I think at least most of the organizations should strengthen the core supply chain with the use of appropriate use of technology. That's my take on this.
But the core definition is basically returning to a normal operation in the shortest possible time, right?
Correct. That is where we need to get back as soon as possible to where we were.
And this is one of the big questions. So Sylvia, I come back to you. Where do you see the big vulnerabilities in the supply chain in general? Because clearly, when we talk about resilience, we talk about vulnerabilities. When we talk about sustainability, we talk about vulnerabilities, and so on and so forth. So where do you see the big vulnerabilities in the supply chain?
Yeah, absolutely. It's visibility. I'll tell is visibility because you cannot do anything well in supply chain if you don't have visibility in everything, forecasting and inventory and all the information that you think about it, like in the core business is visibility.
Okay, excellent. I mean, from a technical point of view, where do you see the vulnerabilities in the supply chain?
So for me, right, the key risk lies in there's a lot of innovation around the supply chain. We are seeing AI being involved, chatbot, blockchain, etc. Okay.
Okay.
So what is happening is we are innovating on one side, but there are a mix of legacy systems which are still there, and that is adding to the complexity. And if we not think about it as part of innovation and we don't involve it, I think that's a big gap there.
Okay.
I think, and the other thing I would say is the shadow IT, where a part of business goes and builds its own infrastructure or own processes. That leads to lack of ownership of end-to-end processes. Right. Okay, I think these are the couple of things which I think are a big gap when we consider supply chain in general. Yeah.
Let me ask you one follow-up question on that. Clearly, you're right, because when you're trying to transform your system from a legacy to a digital, there is complexity in the migration. But how do you get away from the legacy part of it? Because it's not so easy just to scrap everything and start from scratch. It would be great. Startups are more successful because they can start from zero. But how do you reduce that vulnerability when you're migrating from legacy to a digital system?
All right. So one thing is for sure, right? Legacy is here to stay. It is not going away anytime soon, right? I mean, I've been working with a lot of organizations for like past 15 years. So what I would think is you would need something like, I mean, I'm just saying this, but Boomi, to ensure that we can modernize these legacy applications, right? We create a layer on top so it becomes modern in nature. So we can leverage that and build those innovation on top of that modern layer.
But it has more complexity as well, right? So that's another vulnerability. So you have to manage
Yes,
two levels of
that
vulnerability.
is correct.
And we'll come back to that later on, because that's an important point. Many people are caught in this trap of how to break away from legacy, moving to the new age systems.
Yes, so I think inventory management is a challenging activity, even at the best of times, and I guess even more so in the kind of disruptive period we're going through this year. So Sylvia, what is it exactly that makes inventory management so difficult and so challenging? What would you say is that?
No, Bob, it's interesting because Amit even mentioned a little bit of that is the traditional methods. And then volatility is here, I mean, for a long time. It's not just like in these last six months. The volatility just, I mean, expanded immensely, but you know, the traditional methods. And it's not just about technology. Technology plays a very important role, right? But if you think about, there is traditional methods that needs to be also modernized. Customer experience now is being modernized, but companies still need to look at the back end supply chain.
And are there some typical issues you see with companies that they encounter when they're looking to manage their inventories effectively? What are the kind of issues that they face?
Oh yeah, of course, there is many challenges because again, what happens usually, and this is what I want to kind of share with everyone, right? Because I like to, you know, sometimes a picture say 1,000 words. Every company now is putting a very nice application for customers to use, but not just customer experience, but when you think about like, not just, I would say, end users, right? But even company business to business, they are putting like websites, etc. But what happens inside, there is so many systems, and not just systems and technology, but different processes, different teams, right? And then to manage it all and forecast all of that, you know, is like it doesn't provide a very good customer experience. And then if you think about, there is like thousands of goods and SKU numbers to manage. And there is one of the issues too is like everyone knows here, right? Is the managing the custom orders, right? The customs orders are very critical. And then how you can manage all this together when everything is siloed. So this is a major challenge that we see.
So companies may have a lot of systems in place, but these are often siloed, so we don't get proper organizational effectiveness. Is that the kind of thing that you're saying?
Yeah, and not only that is the silo that disperse data and disperse processes. People don't talk to each other. The departments, they purchase their own technology, and there is like shadow ITs, as Amit mentioned, right? So, and then there is also the legacy applications, and everyone works in their silo. And sometimes it is even complex to say, oh, I want to rip the whole supply chain and implement a new supply chain. It's kind of almost impossible, right? But how to bridge that gap? So you need to look at technology that you can bridge the gap between legacy and newer technology as you modernize to newer technologies. But with that, processes and people together.
Okay, thank you.
So Sylvia, on this point that you mentioned, all the silos, the different legacy systems, how does Boomi help clients to integrate these systems? And that's another complexity that we're all facing in reality.
Yeah, absolutely. So Boomi is one, has a solution that we call like integration platform as a service. And Amit's going to mention a little bit more about that platform. Is basically a platform that brings everything together in various types of applications. And that's also in the cloud.
That's great. So we'll come back to Amit on that later on. Yes. But coming back to you, Sylvia, you mentioned earlier on that visibility is really at the source of everything. So maybe walk us through what is visibility for you, and how do we interpret visibility, and what do we do about improving that?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the silos, right? And even like research that we have done in the past, right? Visibility is critical because again, the legacy systems has those types, old types, or I would say legacy types of data. And then
Right.
there is the modern systems, and then they don't talk together. I mean, this happens here in US, right? Like sometimes you go to a store and then the inventory is different from when you see in the website, right? And this is like in a retail environment. You find that too in like CPG, manufacturing, or sometimes even with claims, whenever like you talk about like anything supply chain, right? You see that, you know, there is discrepancy of data. And when I
Right.
talk about visibility, it's like bring all together the forecast, inventory, orders, shipment. How can I plan well my production or even deliver my the goods and service to my customers if I don't even have a good forecast? And we are talking here about inventory, right? Tell me about inventory. There is, let's say someone is purchasing something in the web in a marketplace, how you get that information about another marketplace.
Right. So
I,
what you,
I just I just heard one solution from one company. You know, they are actually changing the system, saying whenever someone put something in the cart, it's already counting item in the inventory.
right.
So it's very important to
Yeah.
have this synchronization real time.
That's right. In fact, all of these things, we look at forecasts from the sales channel, inventory from production, orders from sales, shipment from logistics. And these are all the silos we were talking about earlier on, right? So this is all the
Mm-hmm.
silos visible within their own silo, but not integrated. And this is where we have the breakdown and the disconnects in the chain.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
excellent. So these are your highlights of where the visibility is most crucial and where we have to integrate a system. So coming back to what you mentioned a moment ago about customer experience, is all about solutions and the tools we deploy. So can you share with us an example of a success story that to put this into perspective?
Yeah, so we have several examples. This is just a simple example of a customer experience. This is a customer that is innovating, and then they also have to manage basically all the suppliers and vendors and partners, right? So they brought initially some integration with their suppliers,
Right,
logistics and finance partners, right? So using B2B. And then this was more the traditional legacy, but we support them. They also integrate with their ERP systems and systems like Anaplan to do forecast. And then they brought up, and then also they did some connectivity with other, I would say, sell side, that's distributors, retail, marketplace, mobile, all through API. So if you see here, we are bringing the old to the new to provide a high level consumer experience. And
right,
sometimes some larger organizations, they have some difficulties to implement those types of systems because it's too rigid.
right.
Then this is not, these small companies, sometimes they can be more flexible and then even provide services to large enterprise.
Right. That's interesting because we all recognize that this is very much the platform of a big company. How does a small company manage this? Are they leaner? Are they more flexible? What is your experience
You're
between the
totally
big,
right. The more companies, and then that's the startups, right?
right?
They are being innovative because they are using all these new technologies, right? That is like easier to manage and using cloud. And I would say using like creating applications on low code development or even like microservices and Kubernetes and DevOps. They are using all these new technologies. They can continuously deliver applications to
Right.
support the businesses, and that's where sometimes the traditional methods of implementing solutions takes time.
Okay. So Sylvia, help us to maybe take us through some of the successful milestones that you've experienced and to help us to understand, are these applicable to big companies, small companies, SMEs who are established, not startups? How do we, because a lot of people on the call do come from SMEs and they recognize that these are the big player tools and toys, but they don't have the luxury of having the same facility in their small SMEs. Maybe take us through what you would recommend as the starting point.
Yeah, you know, it's very important because sometimes a lot of people sometimes think about just technology, right?
Right.
And some people think about just processes, but you need to bring all together.
Right.
It's processes and people and technology. 80% is processes. And by the way, don't try to resolve everything at once. You're gonna go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So my recommendation here is like focus in the small value stream that you are responsible for, identify the wasted time, what's causing the major issues, and then optimize that particular piece. And then when I say optimize, we can bring all the systems process together, and then also optimize with some like local development tools. So again, another point is agile, and agile based on the strategy. What's your digital ambition? What you want to go? Focus on that, and then I would say implement fast, fail fast, learn fast. Netflix, I mean, the past, what they did, I mean, a long time ago, right? They create this chaos type of, testing. So they break all the systems to, test and practice.
Right.
So whenever internet was gone, they knew what to do, right? So align with the organization culture for sure, and be informed. Like I keep informed about everything possible that I can in the marketing trends, because there is always some new and also some ideas that you can even leverage for your environment. One more tip here that's very important. Sometimes it's hard to do operational work and innovate. So if you're having a small team, get 1-2 people that's gonna focus and look what needs to be done to innovate or even to improve that particular environment.
Right, but that's very sound advice, Sylvia. But some of the terminology that people use sometimes are confusing. Let me take the example here: value stream processes. What do they mean to the small SME? How did you understand it? Because sometimes it can be quite complicated and confusing, right?
Yeah, the word value stream basically comes from like lean manufacturer. Is not a new word, right? Has been there for 20-something years, but got back again, especially in the high-tech environment, right? With scale agile, with agile, right? And then basically, sometimes when you are doing agile projects, you are more focused like in small like fields and features. But the point is like, what's my customer experience, right? So the customer put an order. This order goes to where, what's the interface with my inventory, with my distributors. So when I say about value stream, is basically your processes that sits on top of your businesses. That's the process that's going to provide value to the business.
Sylvia, people always produce roadmaps and methodologies and recommendations, etc., of how to do things. One thing we never see, and I don't know how you cope with it and what your experience is education and training of the organization for the journey. Because
you are totally correct.
Yeah. So how does this happen in real life?
Yeah, you're totally correct. You have to invest on those aspects, and then again, I would, as I mentioned, always having or enabling your even employees to participate. But I would say that just going back to one aspect about this whole process, the ideal is to always adapt hybrid processes. When I mention like all these processes that I mentioned, it's important to know all of them, see what fits for your company, and then you define your own processes. So you define your process, and then you implement and train everyone.
But does Boomi provide the training, or is the company supposed to go out and do their own training, or do you advise them what sort of training they should do beforehand? Because clearly alignment of a rollout project means also alignment of terminology to understanding, etc. Otherwise you are completely in conflict all the time.
Oh, that's a perfect question. So we did launch actually this week something called Boomi Blueprint. And then we have a framework that's complementary, it's free, it's in your community, and companies can access that and even see the details that I'm talking about, how to design a platform, what's the terms, what security needs to be implemented. So based on knowledge from others, you can leverage. We also have a platform for training and certification that's complementary. There is no cost for.
Excellent. Okay, that's fantastic. Bob, over to you. Are there any questions? Yeah, please go ahead.
So there's one question about the recommendations that we can see on the screen. What kind of timescale are we talking about to do these activities? Is it all within 6 months, a year? How long is this going to take? And are these successive activities, or can we do some of these simultaneously?
Well, the ideal, especially nowadays, Bob, is to find quick wins. So you should have a short-term roadmap and a long-term roadmap. The short term is going to focus on quick wins. What I can do now to resolve business issues, to improve or inventory or supply chain. and then you have more long term, and then you may basically manage that in parallel. And then as we are living in a very volatility environment, it's always good to continuous explore. Is this working? Is this mapping with my business strategy? Again, it's interesting, especially small business. And I had an opportunity to have even my business in Brazil, right? And then it's interesting because the question is, what's your vision, where you want to go? And then based on that, you focus in improving and designing your strategy on top of that.
Right.
It's very important to always look on that continuously.
It's fundamental, I think, right, Sylvia? That is fundamental.
Absolutely. It's continuous exploration, design best practices, and continuous assessment. And
because
I know
something
that
like aligning the organization and the culture, presumably that would take quite some time. Would you agree?
Well, if you want to align the whole organization, takes time. Even like, let's say, if you think about implementing like scale agile, right? Because agile by itself doesn't work, right? You need to focus on the also business and being one level up. Takes time, right? But you know, there is also new I would say not technologies, but new processes like design thinking, right? We just have a session here at Boomi like 2 weeks ago. We stay like 10 people, and we are rushing out new technologies, new innovations, and we are not thinking about what we have. We are not building on top of what we have. We are building something totally new.
Right.
So those types of sessions, they help a lot because you have representatives from several areas. They can provide real-time input, and the objective is to come out from those meetings with a very good blueprint in how you're gonna solve that particular problem.
Okay.
So, and that was basically, we sit down actually 2 weeks with 10 people and for a quite amount of time. So those quick wins can come from those sessions, but you need to invest the time and have the people to do that type of design thinking sessions.
And you've talked a little bit here about failure and failing fast, but of the organizations that you work with, that you may work with, that don't succeed, what are the kind of characteristics of those companies that are not able to see success out of these initiatives?
Yeah, so what happens is sometimes they are so embedded in the operation side. So it's like you're rushing and doing this, and there is tons of activities that they don't have the time to stop and think about it. So, and another point is, I don't know all the details about the audience here, because we can have also people from line of business that are in the day-by-day activities for supply chain. And we might have also architects and IT people, right? So a very important piece is also, right, be aligned with IT. And IT nowadays, they are so busy with so many requests and workforce agility managing. Sometimes it's hard to get even the attention. So think about data citizen, decentralize a little bit more of this of these processes within the supply chain organization, and have people in the supply chain organization looking at the process, but also technology.
Okay.
We do have this type of model at Dell Technologies as well.
If you allow me, Bob, I'd like to jump in there a minute, Bob. Sylvia touched something very important. People are very busy. IT is always very busy. Everybody's always very busy, and they don't understand what's going on. Isn't it the case that when you start allowing a shadow IT organization to start evolving, you are already asking for trouble? Because once that happens, you're just duplicating and triplicating the work. Where do you see the failure here? Is it the management of the IT? Is the management of the business? Is the leadership of the company? Where does the responsibility lie to create an alignment of effort and activity and priorities?
It's about IT creating what we call community of practices.
Right.
IT should basically have those platforms. Like, for example, this is an example of our platform, right? They can add a platform like Boomi to help connect the systems, orchestrate the data, create those experiences, right? But then when they create this platform, they make available for line of business, and they provide a community of practice inside of the organization. And then, I mean, what if you are talking about SMB, is basically you're going to talk about one or two people within the IT organization that's going to provide guidance to the line of business in how to leverage those platforms. And this is not just for the Boomi platform specifically, but yeah, guidance in how the line of business can be connected to this platform or just other systems.
Right. Okay.
So I think let's turn to technology for a minute. When we talk about technologies and architectures, I mean, what are the fundamentals that we're looking for to overcome some of the issues that we talked about so far this morning? Amit, would you like to say something about this?
Yeah, I think Sylvia mentioned quite a few points, right? I think one of the things which I think is required from a capability point of view is connecting seamlessly to whichever part of your supply chain, all right? I mean, you could be running legacy systems, you could be running siloed systems, you could have modern applications like RPAs, chatbots, IoT, blockchain, etc., right? So you need to connect to all these systems seamlessly. And once you connect, right, you should be able to have the capability to transform that data, orchestrate that information, hopefully in real time, and then create a standard ease of use experience across all the touch points in supply chain, right? This could be touch points when I say, right, there are a lot of different people involved. It could be people at work, warehouse, there could be people in office, right? And the managers sitting there and managing the supply chain. So everybody should be part of it, and everybody should have similar ease of use experience using the technology. I think once you achieve all these three different capability, you should be able to see significant benefits, and that would help towards transforming your supply chain to a large extent.
So this is a platform that you would provide for your customers. If this is what we're seeing on the screen right now.
Yes, that is correct, right? I mean, Boomi is the first and I think the only solution currently in the market which is cloud-based completely. We can do EDI, supply chain integration capabilities fully on a service-based model, right? Now, like businesses can easily exchange supply chain data and manage trading partner relationship without the burden of installing or maintaining software or appliances. Or in past, right, people have paid a lot of money for expensive consultants, van fees. That we take out all of that, right? I mean, if I have to give you an example, recently we have a big fab manufacturer in Singapore who is using Boomi to innovate. They are integrating with entire partner ecosystems using Boomi EDI capabilities, right? So for me, I think it enables you to manage your trading partner network of any size using our SaaS platform. And you could be in any part of supply chain, right? It could be manufacturing, distribution, warehousing, transportation services. You should be able to easily deploy and manage your own EDI as well as new web services. Okay. One last thing I would like to mention here is like we also provide a low-code development platform where you can create supply chain journeys and automate your workflows, and these could be right from simple to sophisticated.
So given what you say about low code, so does that mean the customer would not need a whole lot of IT expertise to use this?
That's right. So I remember, right, when 3 years back when I started Singapore operation in Boomi, for my first customer was a logistics customer. They had a team of 12 people, and it's a small company, right, who were managing integration and trying to integrate with warehouse management systems, Salesforce, and there were other few systems. And Boomi came in. We took a partner. We came in, and currently you wouldn't imagine there are only 2 guys who manage that entire process, right from 12 to 2, right? We bring very high productivity tooling. They don't have to manage any software. They don't have to manage any infrastructure. It's all on cloud. You just need a browser, username and password, and you go. And it's very easy to use as well, right? And it's low code, so you don't have to learn anything specific. It's all drag and drop user interface.
Okay. And did you say the low code is an option? Is an option? Is that correct?
It's not an option. The whole platform is built for like
the whole platform.
Yes. And I think Sylvia touched to this, right? We encourage business users also to be part of this whole process. So if there a little bit of tech savvy business users can easily, work with the platform, then you don't necessarily need highly trained IT people to build those processes. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
If I want to come, sorry, any more questions from the audience, Bob? Before
we
start?
do have a question that's come in. I think that was in response to Amit's remark about the cloud. And the question is perhaps not surprising when we have this conversations about the cloud, but how do we ensure security of data on the cloud platform?
All right, so I'd like to see, there's always, like, I take this analogy, right? When banking system started, no one trusted it, but today everybody keeps more or less money in the banking system. It's similar, right? On cloud, we have a lot of regulations, and Boomi also complies to a lot of these regulations. It could be GDPR, it could be SOC 1, SOC 2 compliance, right? We are PCI DSS compliant. So we can work with the customer to actually look at what their security requirements are, right? We have Fortune 100 companies running on our platform. So we take care of security from, we look at it very holistically. And in my view, right, we are more secure than the most of the IT organizations which are running today internally. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Before we wrap up, just want to ask a very important question that I think one of the audience was also asking about people, Sylvia. In your experience, how we talked about training, we talked about people development, etc. But how successful have companies been when they put the right people in front of the problem, and how many failures have you seen because the right people have not been involved in this transition into the new solutions? And what should people do about putting the right people in the right job?
Yeah, it's interesting because that happens a lot. We see a lot sometimes it's happening. And then it's about enabling. And then, I mean, nowadays it's all about people too, it's experience. And sometimes we talk about customer experience, but the most important too is like the employee experience, right? And then finding the right people for the right position. It's about like doing some even investigation internally. When I say investigation, it's like asking people, assess what they want. And then not only that, it's the most important piece is like, again, going back to training, right? And these sessions that I mentioned, design thinking, to understand also where the people are coming from and what they want to, then you can assign people to the right tasks and even.
Yeah, and when we talk about people, Sylvia, we're talking about the IT people, or we're talking about users? Are we talking about both?
Both. We talk about the whole ecosystem,
right?
You know, because the whole supply chain touches the whole ecosystem. So you're talking about basically the employees. You talk about customers, vendors, partners, distributors.
Okay, good. Okay, so time is running fast, and we have. I think we've answered most of the questions from the audience, but we need to wrap up because of time. So. If I can ask you, Amit, first, what are your takeaways from this subject of building resilient supply chains? What is the one or two sentences you would describe as your most important takeaway? What is your wish?
So I'm going to talk it from tech point of view. I think we have covered this in detail. You need to have easy to use technology, which can seamlessly connect to all the systems which are part of your, not only systems, but people and processes which are part of your supply chain process.
Excellent, excellent. And the final word to the lady. What's your takeaway, Sylvia? Because
I just want to remind everyone, my point of view and my experience. There is companies that they focus a lot in sometimes even continuity, business continuity overall, but they don't expect sometimes that unseen things might happen. And then especially for some process like supply chain, they have business continuity for everything, for finance, for IT, but not for supply chain. So my recommendation is, I think everyone learned, specifically this last 6 months, that supply chain went like upside down, inventory changed totally, completely in companies. So I think that's the time now to everyone start to be proactive. And then proactive, I mean, create a business continuity processes, and then maybe even implement twins systems, right? To be able to detect issues that might happen, right? And changes that might happen in the market, in the world, that can prevent issues of supply chain delivering goods and services.
That's a pretty big takeaway, madam. But if I can summarize that, that's basically coming back to what you said earlier about your value stream processes assessment,
and
right?
business continuity, yeah.
Right. So basically,
focus on business continuity for supply chain.
and coming back to actually understanding your value processes so that you can actually include the supply chain, not get blindsided by leaving it out. Do I get it correct?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
I mean, there is tons of good technologies right there, but if you have trash data, that's not going to work, right?
Yeah. Junk in, junk out, basically, right? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's been an excellent discussion. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. I would like to thank you, Sylvia and Amit, for your time, your contribution, your valuable insights. Thank you, Bob, for your participation and controlling the audience questions. And I'd like to thank all the people who have connected and participated to this webinar. I hope you found it useful. So I'll say goodbye and ask you to take care and stay safe and wear your masks.
All right, stay safe, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.